I'm Marie Vigourou.
I'm Jeremy Greer.
And this is Rude Eats, a delicious podcast where we sink our teeth into every episode of the show Hannibal.
My friends call me a killer if you're still hanging around. You spread all of these rumors that I am the guy who did all of these crimes. I thought you wanted me better, someone you wouldn't use. You said he must be a killer, so now when we talk I have anger issues. You said there's no encephalitis. Now we're me deep in my broken psyche, and you're eating my friend. You're a cannibal now. What me were you feeding to me at your dinner party? I'm a cannibal now. All I needed was a friend. Hannibal, you're a cannibal. How? Don't even try to pretend. Hey Hannibal, where's Abigail now? I know it's me, Hannibal, and you framed me for murder and beat me in the ear. I know it's really Hannibal, and you smell my name right next to the ear. You could have been a real friend that taught me all about who I am. I thought you were a real friend, but honestly you're not. Me deep in my broken psyche, and you're eating my friend. Hug me, were you fitting to me at our dinner parties? All I needed was a friend. Don't even try to pretend. Fuck with my head and blame it on the fever. You suspect from the up, you wonder why I'm better. Bragging to our friends, you got me and I did it. I have to tell the truth and I'm born, no you did it. I hate how that you changed me so much, I question myself. I hate how that you changed me so much, you can go to hell.
And we are back with the penultimate episode of season 2. How excited are we to be here?
We are extremely excited. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to talk for you, but like, I am extremely excited.
Oh, I've been like champing at the bit to get to the end of season 2. So like the closer we get, I'm just so excited. This episode in particular is one of the more gruesome episodes.
Yep.
And just in terms of like body horror and gore, while at the same time is one of the most like direct expressions of love between our two main characters that we've ever seen. And it's just fascinating to me. Like Brian Fuller, how you have some explaining to do, sir.
I just love that, like, this is, and you can tell how this was written, that it, especially at the time that it was written, that like they upped the body horror so that would be like what people would talk about most, rather than like the queer love story between Hannibal and Will, right? So like the general public who may not be attuned to like what's going on between these two men will focus on the gruesome body horror, whereas like the people who are seeing it can only see that, right?
Mm-hmm. And it's and we'll kind of talk about it in detail when we get there, but like the gruesome body horror section, again, to make the comparison to the books, this is something that happened in the past. We don't live through this moment in the books.
Really?
Yeah. When we meet Mason Verger in the books, and I've been kind of waiting to tell you this because it kind of spoiled. When we meet Mason Verger in the books, he's already in the condition he is at the end of this episode. Like he's, like his experience with Hannibal has already happened. Like there's no, Will is not around because he disappears after the end of Red Dragon. So like all of this stuff that we deal with Will and him and Margot just is completely gone. But we meet Mason after Hannibal has already done this to him. And then he's kind of on a quest to capture Hannibal, which gets into some other things. So it's kind of interesting that they made us live through this moment and made it directly, I think, impactful to Will at the same time, and wrapped it up in this kind of like game of murder chicken is the only way I can describe it. Like Mason talks about playing chicken with Margot, and very much so they're playing like some murder chicken here. So
yeah, it's definitely murder chicken, but it's also like sexy murder chicken.
Sexy murder chicken.
I don't know.
Well, we're only 5 minutes in, and I think we've got the title.
People are going to think you said that, actually. I'm just letting you know.
That is a very Jeremy statement. I'm corrupting you, which is very...
You are.
You're
persuading me.
We're changing one another. As we do this podcast.
I was listening to Non-Human Biologics the other day, and Chris, like, sounded so sad that you don't talk to him about possibly, like, eating human with him. It's just like, Chris... It's like, why do you never talk to me about that, man? It's like, Chris. I just wanted to hug him. I was like, we can talk about cannibalism with you, Chris. It's okay.
Anytime. Yeah, anytime. Watch the show. Come guest on the episode.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. I would love that.
Why don't you tell people what episode we're dealing with?
Yes, today we are talking about Hannibal Season 2, Episode 12, the penultimate of the season, Tome-wan. And in this episode, during a therapy session, Will shares a vision of how he would kill Hannibal. Meanwhile, an increasingly impatient Jack brings in a surprise witness to help Will catch Hannibal. This episode was directed by Michael Reimer, written by Chris Brancato, Brian Fuller, and Scott Nimfero, and it originally aired on May 16th, 2014.
I have to say something out loud because it's been in my brain for probably about a week since we watched this episode. And I just need to say it once, and it'll be out of my brain. I'll never have to think about it again, but I just have to say it. Tome-wan Kamanobi. Okay, I'm done. I'm done. I had a brain worm. Now it's over with. I don't ever have to say it again. We can move on to actually covering the episode. Tome-wan is basically like a miso and rice soup. It's a very simple dish, but I thought it was kind of fascinating when I looked it up. As normal, like all of these words have been corrupted on the internet. So like you just find Hannibal stuff when you look for it. So you have to dig through. But when I finally found somebody explaining the dish and kind of broke it down, tome means to stop. And so when the rice and miso soup are served, it means at the end of the kaseki main course and the only dessert is left to come. And I think that's just a brilliant dish to pick for the penultimate episode. But we were both saying penultimate like we just learned the word penultimate for the first time.
I just love saying it because it's such a weird word. So
it's rare that you get to like use it in context with anything.
I know, right?
I just love the idea of like, okay, the main course is finished and it's only dessert left to come, because obviously the finale is one of the most highest rated episodes and one of the most talked about episodes of Hannibal that there is. So excited to get there.
I'm so scared. At this point, this will have already happened, right? Because of weird podcast timelines. But next week, we are going to be watching it live with people on the Discord server of our little podcast. And I am just so scared because, like, I don't know. I feel like there are going to be memes of my face after that.
There's no question in my mind that there's going to be memes. I mean, I'll probably be saving screenshots as we go along. Like, I'm very, very excited about this whole thing to get into it, and we'll probably do like more of that. So, like, even if you missed the season 2 finale episode, like, join the Discord. Like, look for links in the show notes.
Yes.
But let's talk about. I think, like, as I watched this the first time, I DM'd you, and I kind of was like, man, it just seems like influence or maybe even persuasion is going to be the place to go to for this episode as a theme for this episode. Just with everything that happens, it just seems kind of a no-brainer choice to me.
Yeah, I fully agree, and I jumped on it the second you said it. I was like, yes. The really cool thing about persuasion, now it's a bit harder to relate to the dish, right? But I would kind of say that, like, by the end of this meal, has the chef persuaded you that this was a good meal or not, right? Like, so I think that's how we can kind of relate it to the dish. But so if we look at the etymology of persuasion, it's basically like from per, which is like thoroughly or strongly, and suadere, which is to urge to persuade. But apparently that word also comes from sweet, which is like pleasant. And so it just, I think throughout this episode, I am going to wonder about the relationship between persuasion and seduction. Because persuasion is described as like the action of inducing someone to believe something by appeals to reason, not by authority, force, or fear. So this idea of reason is going to be really interesting. Whereas when I looked up seduction, it was mostly about like to lead astray. And the thing is, for Hannibal, it's kind of both. And so I'm just really excited to get into this.
It's interesting that the subtle difference between persuasion and seduction is kind of at the core of one of our big questions about Hannibal's character as we've talked about him on this podcast, which is like, does he plan everything? Is he a rational person, or is he like a chaos gremlin? And as I've said in the past, like it seems like he has traits of, he embodies both of those things. And that's why I think like it's easy to mix up persuasion and seduction in this episode, because it feels like he's doing both at the same time. Like the Venn diagram is quite a bit of an overlap, right? And that's also true about like the way that he exist in the world. Like he not obviously like he does stuff because he wants to see what happens, right? He's just curious,
right.
but also he's doing stuff for specific reasons at the same time. And it's, that's kind of at its core, like the difference between persuasion and seduction. So I think it's going to be interesting to go through this episode and talk about both as we deal with the character motivations and whatnot.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. This is such a good show.
It's such a good show. It's really difficult. Like somebody in our Discord, and apologies for me not remembering, like posted a thing saying that they had watched this at 12 years old for the first time, which number one, don't let your 12-year-olds watch this show. But also that it kind of ruined them for TV for a long time. And it's like, absolutely.
Well,
yeah. Like if you are watching this and trying to go to any other like modern show, it would be really, really difficult. To get
I think that's also the issue with Daredevil right now for me. Is that I'm going from this to Daredevil, and I'm just like, oh.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, listen to the outtakes, everybody.
Let's get into our Beat by Eat.
Let's.
We're going to start out with Will and Hannibal in Hannibal's office.
And they are both wearing blue.
Both wearing blue. Will is a tad more aggressive than we've seen him be with Hannibal in previous episodes. Basically kind of almost challenging him. Can you posit my intentions? Hannibal says that they understand each other's minds and that they're just alike, which allows them to deceive one another. And Will says he's not deceiving anyone. He's just pointing out the snare around Hannibal's neck, which Will put there. And of course, this is this whole situation with Mason Verger and Margot that they found themselves in.
Will has a thing about Hannibal's neck. Like the number of times that we have seen, I know, right? Like we've seen like either like bondage or like, it's just, he has a thing for Hannibal's neck.
I mean, he's going to, just in a minute, he's going to fantasize about slicing it open. Like,
I know. Like, Will.
Hannibal asked, why did you tell Mason Verger that I want to kill him? And Will replies with Hannibal's answer. I was curious what would happen. And I bet Hannibal just loves this when he hears stuff like this. And Will insists, like, I know it's true. Like, you want Mason dead. And Hannibal admits, like, he's discourteous, and discourteous is unspeakably ugly to me. And then follows it up with, whenever possible, one should always eat the rude, which, of course, is the origin of the name of our podcast. Kind of. Like, I didn't tell Mary about this line or anything. We just kind of had the discussion about eating the rude. And Will is like, hey, the next time you guys have a session, you should kill Mason. And that's
That's like so open and out there. I think he's trying to catch Hannibal like in like openly admitting to something, right? But like I just love this whole exchange because Hannibal is like barely hiding behind his human veil anymore, right? Like they're openly talking about killing and eating a man here. And both of them are super chill about it. You know, like it's just like a casual conversation. They're literally making dinner date plans, right? Like there is only dessert left indeed, is what I'm saying, you know? Like
yeah, it's very frightening with the calmness with which Will approaches these situations. Like assuming that we believe that he is 100% doing this to capture Hannibal and that he's not been persuaded or seduced in some way. The idea that he could be this cold throughout the whole thing, especially like towards the end when he just like casually watches Mason mutilate himself, right? Like that's it's intense.
it really is.
Hannibal encourages Will to close his eyes and imagine what he would like to happen, when he talks about Hannibal killing Mason.
This is like legitimately the text that goes, so tell me what you have in mind for after dinner.
Yeah. Again, you know,
Right?
dessert
Like-
is the only thing left, right?
I know.
We hear this orchestral music swell, and we get this scene of Hannibal wrapped up in what looks like the top of a straitjacket attached to a rope above Mason's pig maze. And as they stare at each other, Will literally slices Hannibal's throats open and bathes in the blood spatter. And Hannibal is slowly moved away to be above the pig maze and then lower down where he is, set upon by the pigs underneath. And we see it's very violent and loud until Will opens his eyes. But I think throughout this entire scene, after Will slits his throat and bathes in his blood, they do not break eye contact for the entire time.
Oh, yeah.
And then as we watch the pigs tearing Hannibal's body apart, Will opens his eyes, and Hannibal says, "What did you see?" And then we hear this like little kind of like dee piano tinkle, and Will just looks at him, and it's
the little romance music.
It is. It's very much. It's very much like we're having a meal together and kind of realizing that we like each other a little bit more than just like this is
so hot.
This shouldn't be hot. This should not be hot.
Why? But it is though. And why? Why is it hot? I don't like it.
A little murder meet cute.
Yeah. Sexy murder dinner.
We finally get our intro. And we come back to Hannibal's office again, except this time he's wearing one of his incredible plaid suits, which I would literally see on a rack somewhere and just scoff at. Assuming you could even buy something like this off the rack, and I'm sure he just found the fabric somewhere. But he is sliding a scalpel into the arm of his coat because Mason is in the room with him, and Mason is in the corner judging Hannibal's artwork, his kind of pencil drawings from good to garbage. And I just want to point out the weird cinematography here, because this was around the same time that I think Supernatural was doing this, where it's almost where you divide the screen in two, and on one side is like this super zoomed in shot of something, and on the other side is like kind of a distance shot of another character. And here we have... It was
a trend.
Yeah. And here we have like Hannibal... like again hiding that scalpel and then in the background we see Mason. With Supernatural, it was like an up close shot of Sam's face. I'm just like, this is way better. But also like I don't feel like it only happens twice in this episode, like right back to back, and I just don't feel like it fits in with the show's cinematography at all. It almost feels like kind of forced in a weird way, like, oh, we have to like we have to do this effect, like we've learned how to do something,
right?
So
even on a Hannibal show, your Sam hate permeates.
It's not
unbelievable.
It's not that I hate Sam Winchester. It's just that he's a bad person. No. I don't hate Sam Winchester. I just deeply dislike Jared Padalecki nowadays, so it's hard to separate him from the character. So
I get it. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I think the cinematography is really weird. at the same time, I'm kind of like, it just creates such an awkward and weird, like, I almost didn't recognize that they were in Hannibal's like therapy room or his library when this was happening. Like, it just made everything look so foreign and so strange and out of place. Like, and this is a place that is like kind of a center of intimacy for Will and Hannibal. And here it just looks completely different. And so I'm like, I'm willing to forgive it.
Yeah,
like, but,
yeah.
Yeah, but I do agree that it was weird, and it's an effect that I do not like in general.
Agreed. Mm-hmm. Mason sits down at Hannibal's desk and puts his feet on the desk, which irritates Hannibal, and talks about how when he abused the children at the camp, that he learned a lot about suffering.
Right. Yeah, it's like... I need to highlight something here because Mason says like being a good student of the Bible. And I think that he's the first character on this show to kind of call himself a student of the Bible or like a follower of God, because the only other character that has like openly mentioned God and religion is Hannibal. And like Hannibal often places himself like as an equal to God. So I really don't think that they're bringing up religion in the same way. Right. And I bring this up because I think that the show is trying to build like a very, very specific kind of masculinity with Mason. I talked about this last episode a little bit, and I really think that thinking of himself as a good student of the Bible is a very important part of it, right?
Interesting. I didn't think about it that way, and I definitely agree. Yeah, like they're setting him up to be a very specific kind of character with this, and like some of the like foundational building blocks of his character have to come from some of this stuff. Are being told to study these kind of things.
Exactly. There you go. Or also like almost, well, let's not be cowards and let's talk about it openly. But just the same way that I see so many people who call themselves Christians be like, we shouldn't be giving free lunches to kids. And I'm just like, what the fuck?
I know. I know.
That's kind of like the opposite of what Jesus said, right? Like, I mean,
it's mind-boggling to me on a regular basis as somebody who kind of just did not trust organized religion from a very young age, like for whatever reason, and has never believed, and has never once in his life like believed in this stuff, but also like sees the acts of Jesus and are like, oh, well, I mean, that dude's pretty chill. Like that dude, I get it, right? Like, you seem like you're, and then like watching people who like venerate that religion do exactly the opposite of all of those things is just mind-boggling to me. It's just, I don't get the hypocrisy at all. I don't get how people live with themselves, or don't see it. And speaking of hypocrisy, like Hannibal points out and says that we either God loves suffering or innocence offends him because of obviously of all of the suffering that he causes in the world. And Mason treats this as a joke, and kind of the way that Mason laughs, like it's not quite like a brain like a mule, but it's this huge, like raucous, like unnecessary, over the top laugh that screams fakeness. And Mason says that suffering and happiness are not mutually exclusive, and Hannibal kind of disagrees. And Mason gets up and walks over, and he has a knife in his hand. He brings out his father's knife, and he walks up behind Hannibal, and Hannibal has no reaction as Mason holds this knife up to Hannibal's neck and talks about how it was his father's knife. And he just asked, whose fat are you measuring today? And again, Mason laughs. It's like, no fat on you. And there isn't. Like, he does not get intimidated by Mason's activities.
Yeah, we're not actually talking about adipose tissue here, right? Like we're talking about like emotional like stability and like protection, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And then, and proof that Hannibal can sometimes be just the comedy that you didn't expect. Mason sits down and takes the knife and stabs it in the arm of the chair, and it switches to Hannibal's face, and he's just got this like Pokemon face that or Pikachu like meme, like kind of look on his face that is so brilliant, and I love it so much.
It's physically painful for him to watch him do that. Like it's like, oh my god.
Mason wants to know what kind of game of chicken that Will and
sexy murder chicken
Hannibal are playing with one another, saying that he plays murder chicken with Margot all the time, but he doesn't tell her that they're playing. And then again he pulls the knife out of the chair and then stabs it in again, and just kind of cackles and is like, "Send me the bill." And it switches to Hannibal, and Hannibal just like closes his eyes in disgust, which is, it's so good. As much as I hate Mason, like the reactions that he engenders from Hannibal are very interesting and exciting for me. So,
oh yeah, for sure, because like Hannibal so rarely meets people that challenge him, right? And I hate Mason and everything that this character embodies, but he challenges Hannibal in a way that we haven't seen him be challenged before, and so in that sense, he is very interesting to kind of put in the mix here.
Yes, exactly.
I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that Mason thinks that he's doing a good job at like persuading Hannibal? Because like, so I think that like his antics usually work on people because like they have less power than he does. And so like when he like stabs something and like tries to scare them or intimidate them, like they automatically like, okay, yeah, sure. They automatically like agree with them, right? So that's not persuasion. They take the chocolate. Mm-hmm. Exactly. But like, it's clearly not working with Hannibal. And I just don't know if Mason is aware of that, because I'm not sure that Mason has the capacity for self-awareness.
I absolutely agreed. Like, I don't think, I think Mason has always, by virtue of his wealth and the power that comes with that, has always been able to intimidate people with these kind of antics. And I just think that he has no self-awareness or any sort of doubt whatsoever that this is working, right? Like he fully expects that he is in control of the situation, even as he's been proven to not be in the control of the situation. Like, I don't think we mentioned it directly, but like at the start of this conversation, Mason is chiding Hannibal for interfering with his family matters, right? Like by getting, I don't think he blames Hannibal for getting Margot pregnant, but like, you know, introducing the idea to Margot. And so even though it's been absolutely proven that he's not in full control, like he still believes that he is. He can't see it any other way. Like he just doesn't have that self-awareness that you talked about.
Right. Okay.
Do you think the same thing? Like I kind of
Yeah, absolutely. Completely. I think that Mason thinks that he's in control of the situation, like you said, in that scene, but like we know he's not. We're like, oh, something awful is going to happen to you, Mason. And it is.
We switch over to Margot, who's in the process of getting dressed. And the camera kind of lingers on her back where we see all of these old scars. And then it switches to her looking at herself in the mirror where she sees the new scar on her stomach. And she tells Hannibal and Will, who were in the room, that, the surgery could have been done laparoscopically, which wouldn't have left any kind of scar. But Mason specifically wanted to leave a scar on purpose. And Will describes this as branding. And she says, yeah, he wants to make sure that this can't be undone. And Will responds, Mason can be undone. But of course, in Margot's view, like now she's trapped with him forever. If she wants to have access to, I love Margot as a character. I think she's fascinating, but also like there's a little bit of a kind of a selfish, shallowness to this, because like the only thing that's keeping her to Mason is the wealth, right? Like the thing that she doesn't want to lose is the family power and the family wealth and access to these things that she's used to. Otherwise she could just leave. Like you're it's like the skeleton zone, like, hit the bricks. Right. But she doesn't want to leave this behind. But she says she's stuck with Mason because she depends on him for everything.
The thing is, like, really wealthy people are also not often trained to do things, like to work. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so I'm like, I don't even know that she would be able to work, like it's like, because I had the same thing. I was like, you could just leave. And then I'm like, yeah, but like to do what? To live where? With whom? Like It is. You're absolutely right. There's like an aspect of like just move away from the hurricane zone kind of thing. Like no, like my family has lived here forever, and I have no money. I can't go buy a house and wherever that's gonna also have different climate zone climate failure impacts. Like it's there's an aspect of that to it as well. I guess you're right. I wasn't really thinking about it. It just
Like,
But
I
I
can't.
agree with you. She could just leave. Like,
I just think that I would try to, like, given the alternative, like if it was
yeah.
if it was Mason or terrifying unknown,
yeah.
I would choose the terrifying unknown. Like, it just seems like it would be, but you know, a lot of people
Yeah.
it's the devil, you know.
It is. And like it's also like really deeply psychologically ingrained where like those situations that are familiar, even if they're unhealthy, feel more comfortable and like, yeah. So she's like, I know at least how to handle that, so I'll just deal with it, right? And maybe this is also just the grief of talking, right? Maybe if we
Yeah.
saw her like in a couple of months after this and whatever happens at the end of this episode doesn't actually happen, maybe she would change her mind. Maybe she would feel better and stronger and able to leave. But in this moment, she's just not, right? She's feeling very defeated.
And the response we get from Hannibal and Will to this, I think, is kind of gross, to be honest with you, because they both encourage her to, like,
Yes.
you know, you need to be human, you need to move on, you need to survive him. And I'm like,
Right.
I'm sure all of those things will happen in time, but like, this chick just literally got assaulted, like, in one of the most invasive ways that you could be assaulted. Like, she had, like, someone involuntarily did surgery on her, and very specifically, like, sexually charged surgery, like, you know, removed her ability to reproduce sexually. And it's, you know, to be like, just get over it, girl. Like, let's go out and get Ritas. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel really kind of scummy in my mouth. So
100%, right? Like, and I because I have like a different way of looking at this moment, but I really don't want to make it sound like I'm arguing against what you're saying because I fully agree with you.
yeah,
Like,
you
it is
can
gross.
yes
It's
and
gross.
me. That's absolutely, because it
Yes,
can be
there you
two
go.
things.
It's a yes and because it's so the end part of this is that I wonder how much Will is projecting here and how much of what Hannibal is telling Margot is actually directed at Will, because like we know that they do that, right? Where they like talk to each other across somebody else, right? It's the whole meme of like, this dinner is delicious. Yeah. You know, like, so it kind of feels almost natural that like in a context where somebody had like a medical procedure done on them without their consent, which if we remember is something that happens a lot to Will in season 1 at the hands of Hannibal. It kind of feels natural that Hannibal would be like, oh, you have to move on from it, because that's what he wants Will to do, right?
Of course,
Like, he wants Will to move on from it. And it's normal also that Will would say like, moving on is a rebuke, show him how strong you are, survive him, because like, he's doing so much of what he's doing now out of pure spite, right? And I love that about him, by the way. And also, like, I think the cinematography kind of tries to hammer that point home, because when he says survive him, boom, camera finds Hannibal. So, and Hannibal kind of like looks down and at Will, right, in that moment. So I don't think that either of them is actually talking to Margot or even talking about Margot here, right? Like they're talking to each other about each other.
Yeah, Margot is basically a cipher at this point. She's the Rosetta Stone to allow them to communicate to one another.
Yes, exactly.
And it's
which is gross in and of itself.
Absolutely,
you know?
yeah.
But,
I mean, like the fact that they do this with everybody. Like they do this with anytime we've seen them in a murder scene together. Like we saw this when they were in front of Randall's body. We saw this when they were in front of Freddie's body, where they have this communication, this conversation that's really only for the two of them, and that Jack is
with
standing
Alana.
there. Yeah, it's just like
dinner.
this is it's really tasty carrots, Dr. Hannibal.
Yes, exactly. And that's kind of the thing, right? That's why I'm like, I don't think this is like a misogynist thing just because they do it with everybody. Like they're just awful people.
Just terrible people.
I guess
in these
okay.
moments.
Yeah, there you go. They're equal opportunistic, like ignorers, I guess,
shit
or
bags.
whatever.
Is what
Yes, essentially. Oh goodness.
It's difficult. Like I think, and another way we can look at this too, of like this is like an extreme example of how couplish they are. Because there's definitely situations where me and Autumn have been in where we have that, you know, that husband and wife, that relationship thing of where you just look at somebody and you know instantly what they're thinking of, like, oh, I'm going to, like, oh, Autumn said this to somebody else, which means she is ready to jet. She wants to go home and sit on the couch with the dogs, or like whatever that is. You know, again, just like they're not BFFs, they're just BFs.
Yes. Exactly. And that's part of the persuasion of it all, right? Like trying to persuade Margot. Through the persuasion of Margot, they're trying to persuade each other
Yes.
of what's going on, right? Mm-hmm. To bring it back to the theme.
We jump to Will, who is now in Jack's office. And this is kind of our first... So we saw Jack and Will ice fishing, where, you know, I'm a good fisherman, you hook them, I'll reel them in. And this is obviously, you know, with the idea in the last episode where we saw Freddie Lounds alive, we realized like, oh, Will didn't kill her. He's faking this. Obviously he's trying to, you know, hook Hannibal. He's trying to catch Hannibal at this. This is our first kind of actual confirmation that Will is actively working against Hannibal. And he says that, you know, hey, he's given me nothing. It's all vagaries.
Right.
It's all like, he doesn't ever say anything specifically. And Jack's like, you got to give me more than that. Like, you literally fucking killed somebody.
And Will is trying to argue the self-defense thing. And Jack is like, I don't know if I could prove that. You mutilated the body. And I don't know why I thought that was so funny.
It's very funny. Yeah.
I started laughing. So I don't know. This show is changing me. Like, it's changing my brain chemistry.
And Jack says, you know, you made a spectacle out of Freddy's death. Like, I'm hiding stuff from my superiors. Like, and I'm not telling them things. What haven't you told me? And this is when Will tells him about Hannibal trying to manipulate Will into killing Mason, and insists that he's going to manipulate Hannibal to kill Mason instead. And I just hear Bedelia's voice and like, you two deserve each other in the back of my head while I'm saying this. He's trying to manipulate me, but actually I'm going to manipulate him. And of course, you know, Jack wants to know, like, why does he want to kill this Mason Verger person? And Will says Hannibal just considers him rude. And says something to the extent of like, being a murderer has put him above such, like, you know, it's made rudeness more of an issue than anything else. Like, murder isn't rude, but, you know, being discourteous is. And Jack is, of course, like, hey, you're putting, like, and he doesn't know Mason, right? So he doesn't know, like, the history and how bad this person is. So Jack is just looking like, this is just a civilian that you're putting in danger. Like, you're exposing them to Hannibal Lecter as bait. Like, this is not right. And specifically tells him, don't let empathy confuse what you want with what Hannibal wants.
So good.
And, you know, it's these moments that make you realize, like, oh, this is why you're head of the FBI behavioral unit.
Yes.
Like Jack has these kind of insights automatically. Like, he's warning Will against this. And it's
sometimes Jack knows how to FBI.
Sometimes he gets it. Yeah, sometimes he remembers it and gets it, absolutely. This is definitely one of those times. And Will insists, like, you have to use the right bait in order to get a good horse. To get a good horse? Sorry.
A horse?
What?
Like, what is happening? A horse? Is that how you get a horse?
The problem with having a MacBook is that you get all of your text messages on the MacBook. And so, like, Autumn just sent me a picture of something.
And it was a horse?
And it was just, like, I think it's just her texting me, like, put horse in my brain because she's outside doing horse stuff. So, like, I don't... I should be a professional and like do like a do not disturb thing, but like it's just the way my screen is set up. Like a quarter of it is the text message. Anyway, yeah, you have to use the right bait to catch the fish.
To catch the horse. And
he says that he's going to set up Hannibal to kill Mason, and when he tries, he's going to arrest him, and there's going to be 2 witnesses. And Jack says, "Oh, but I'm a good fisherman too." And he says that he has a surprise. And who is it but our girl, the one and only Bedelia?
Yeah! I'm so happy.
So excited for Bedelia to show up. And
she's wearing red.
Of
obviously.
course. Bright red. Like, and just looking so incredible. Like the implication here, like if you read between the lines, she's been on the run, right? Like Will says that she was very difficult to track down, and she says that was the point. So the idea that she's been quote unquote on the lam and then comes in and looking like a fucking, you know, like she just came from like was she on the lam at Paris Fashion Week? Like, is that probably was she hiding there? Was she hanging out with Doechii at Paris and in Chapel Roan at Paris Fashion Week? That's going to date this podcast. Not that anybody cares, but whatever.
We already have like so much of Chapel on this podcast.
Right?
Don't worry.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Bedelia, I feel like throughout this entire conversation, before we get to the ins and outs of the actual text, throughout this, she just exudes, like, I described it as the embodiment of melancholy. It's almost like she is so sad to be here, but knows that she can't do anything but exist in this moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Like, she does not want to be here. It shows. She's doing this like against her will. Yeah. Oh man. I love her. I feel for her.
Yeah.
Like, I only want good things. I want to feed her grapes, you know? Like, she doesn't deserve anything less.
You feed the grapes. I'll have the big leaf that does the fan thing. And,
There you go, exactly.
And this
We can
podcast
take care
turns
of
into
her,
something
you know?
totally different.
Oh,
She's been given
yes.
immunity. And I don't understand why this is in the plot, to be honest with you. Like, it just feels like I don't care. Like, I don't need to know about the legal ramifications of Bedelia being here.
Well, it's because she admits to murder, right? So, like,
I mean, yeah,
she
but
has
like,
to be...
it's just weird that they, like, I don't know. Like, they talk to the DA.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not The Wire.
Right.
But very quickly, they begin to talk about Hannibal. And she says that some psychiatrists are so hungry for insight that they will manufacture it themselves. And she's realized now, especially because she watched what he did with Will, that this entire time that she has been under Hannibal's influence. And it's, you know, it's just insidious the way that she kind of describes
Mm-hmm.
this.
Yeah, because like she says something about like, even though I was his psychiatrist, like I was under his influence. And
Mm-hmm.
this is very reminiscent of like the bad guy in Jessica Jones, right? Like, and it's just, it is literally probably my favorite horror trope, I have to be honest. And like, I love it. I love it. It makes me so uncomfortable, but I love it.
Yeah, the incredibly named Purple Man from Jessica Jones.
Oh, that's it. That was his name.
Yeah.
I forget.
He has the power of purple if you go by normal comic book rules, which is just always been very funny to me. Purple Man. What does he do? Oh, he just like paints doors inside purple. No, he's a mind control guy. Mind control is always obviously like very icky. It's one of those things, like you said, it makes you intensely uncomfortable, and like same, like it's one of those things that just makes me want to turn the TV off sometimes. They start talking about her attack, and up to this point, what we've heard is that Hannibal saved her from one of her patients attacking her, and that patient had also previously been a patient of Hannibal, and that he referred this patient to Bedelia. We also knew that he had swallowed his own tongue. Here, Bedelia says that he did swallow his own tongue, but it wasn't attached at the time, which is all kinds of implications. And then she says, I killed him. I believed it was self-defense, and to a point it was, but beyond that, it was murder. And says that Hannibal has basically influenced her to murder, which of course we've seen him do with Will.
Exactly. Like this is, and that's exactly what I said about what Will did to Randall, right? Like it was self-defense to a point, but beyond that, it was murder. And I think that Will is also realizing that.
Yeah, like it's not self-defense when you chop up the body and like make a display of it.
Right? Like, I'm sorry. Like, anyway, he tossed the gun aside. Anyway,
yeah.
We're not going to relitigate
100%,
that. Like,
yeah.
we've talked about this before.
Will ask her if she was coerced, and she corrects them, like, no, this was not coercion, it's persuasion. And ask Will, has he ever tried to persuade you to kill anyone? If not, he will, and it will be somebody that you love, and you will think it's the only choice that you have. At a certain point, I found I was just writing down the dialogue of this show, just over and over again.
I mean, what else is there to talk about? It's just so good. And like, Jeremy, listen, because we know what happens like 12 weeks from the first episode, which is like next episode, right? And I just feel like this does not bode well for Jack.
No.
Like what she just said. Because I don't
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Will ask how she would catch him, and she describes Hannibal's sense of self-congratulation, his own cunning. Like he gets so caught up in his own taste and pleasures. And then finally she looks at him and says, whimsy. That will be
The
how
seduction.
he will get caught.
So not the persuasion part, but the seduction
part,
right?
yes.
Ooh.
So good. And this idea of whimsy is something that, you know, we haven't really talked about in reference to Hannibal's character. And I kept like describing this Hannibal as like a chaos gremlin, and to a degree I think I'm right on that, but there's also like this idea of whimsy, and I think like we see this whimsy when he quote unquote discovers music on the harpsichord or the theremin. His seduction of Alana feels almost whimsical in a way, where it's almost like a casual dalliance for him versus what she probably views as something, you know, much larger and much more important.
Much
and I'm
more
just
profound, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just like, it's I don't think it really works as a theme for this episode, but like as an insight to Hannibal's character, I think it's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I agree. I actually like, yeah, I think that this really works for Hannibal. Like, and the more I thought about it, the more I was like, yeah, man, this is really like what he does, and the way that he discovers music, but also the way that like he weaves stories into his murders, right, and artistry into his murders, I think also works in that way, and the way he cooks, frankly.
Yes, absolutely. We move from this scene to Hannibal pouring wine, and as he hands the glass to Will, he says that they are on the event horizon of chaos. And not to make this entire show about black holes and gravity and teacups being pulled back together, but like the event horizon is very specifically like the point of no return. And it, you know, to kind of relate that back to the name of the episode, the Tome-wan, of, you know, this is the last thing that happens before the dessert. So they are on the, you know, as close as they can get to a black hole without being sucked in. Right. And I just love the reference there, and it's not talked about at all. Will, of course, like changes the subject pretty quickly, and
Will's like, I don't want to talk about black holes.
Will says that Hannibal's composure, given everything that they're going through, is giving him a strong sense of the surreal, and he feels like he's in a dream. And as they sit down, we talked in the last episode a little bit about like the moments where they're drinking and they're like sitting at Hannibal's desk or sitting somewhere else versus the moments where they're sitting across from each other in like the therapy chairs. And here they're doing both. Like their roles have been mixed. Like they're doing the therapy and the friend thing at the same time. Like this is pure murder husband. So,
well, that's the thing. There's literally no more boundaries between them, like in every sense of the word. And it's like, you know, there is only dessert left, right?
And Hannibal says, like, you know, as Will talks about being and feeling like he's in a dream, Hannibal says that Will is waking up to who he is, and describes the situation that they're in as having many opportunities. And of course, you know, you might imagine Will is like, Mason Verger is an opportunity, so Mason Verger is a problem, and problem solving is hunting, and hunting is savagery, and we are both born to it. It's a pleasure that we can share. And that is just like, it's a pleasure that we can share.
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me? What?
Sir.
This is supposed to be rated like, you know, teens only. And I feel like we're getting well beyond that with these kind of words. I
don't understand how they got away with what they got away with.
It's incredible. So like, I just, like, the only thing that I know about network executives and like their input on television are stuff that I've seen actors or directors say, and like a lot of it is like I just saw an interview with Seth Rogen, and he talked about a note that he got one time. They were doing a movie for Sony Studios, and apparently Sony Studios hated Jonah Hill so much that they said that he couldn't be shown touching a PlayStation in the movie. And I have to imagine, like, it's bullshit. Like, the network executives are looking at bullshit like that and not the actual, like, text, much less like the subtext or that some of this has, but like in this case, like the actual fucking text, like they're just
they're talking about hunting. It's a manly thing
Yeah,
to do.
yeah.
You know?
Like it just completely bypasses their like, oh, they're we're not showing butts, so it can't be sexy kind of thing.
It can't be sexy, exactly.
And
like Supernatural, it's about hunting.
It's about hunting, yeah, and family.
It's manly. It's family.
Will accuses Hannibal of fostering codependency, and I just love Hannibal's response of like, "Is that what I'm doing?" and Will says, "Hey, this is exactly what you did with Abigail," and then starts pointing out all of the ways that Hannibal has separated him from the things that Will is bonded to, including like his relationship with Jack, his relationship with Alana, his like not even a relationship with an unborn baby. Like Hannibal is taking all of that away, and I just love. Versus the camera work that I complained about earlier in the episode, here, as they talk to one another, they are heavily obscured by the silhouette of the other. So once again, like we talked about when their conversation with Margot, like as they were talking through her, here it's almost like they're talking through the other one, and the camera work is trying to show that, where they're, the person talking's face is just like one piece. It's like 25% of the screen, and the other 75 is the silhouette of the person that they're talking to, and it's just a real way to get make this conversation, I feel like, very, very close and tense and real in a way that just having like their heads filling the screen probably wouldn't.
Well, yeah. And what I love is also that idea of like the lack of boundaries between them, right? Like the removal of all of those boundaries where like you don't, like what one says is so incredibly obscured by the other, right? Like, and I love that it's a visual representation of what the script is trying to do. And all you can do as a watcher in this moment is just like keep your eyes wide open and hold your breath. Like there is so much tension in this scene, and it's literally two dudes sitting and drinking wine in front of a fireplace, and like it feels like it can explode at any moment. And it's anyway. It's good.
It's so,
Very good.
It's amazing, right? Like we talked in the outtakes about Daredevil, the new Daredevil, and like one of the best scenes of a Marvel superhero show are just two guys sitting down at a diner and having a conversation, which normally would be like, oh, like, if that happened in an Avengers movie, you would be astounded and maybe even a little disappointed. But, this moment is like the kind of the reason that Hannibal is such a memorable show, is just having these types of conversations that have so many layers that on multiple viewings you can absolutely kind of tear apart and get into.
Will also says something that I really, really love here. He says, "You don't want me to have anything in my life that's not you." And I think that Will is quote unquote playing hard to get here, because I think that he really took Bedelia's advice and he's making Hannibal like work for it, specifically so that he's going to be even more self-congratulatory when he ends up getting what he wants, right? And I just think that like, I don't know, like I think Will is doing so much here in this moment.
And I love, like, speaking of Will lines, like the one that he says here, which is every moment of cogent thought under your psychiatric care is a victory. And it's not the first time, but like, I feel like I said at the very beginning of the episode, Will is more aggressive. This is like him saying out loud that they're in a battle, right? Like before this, it was very much Will kind of pretending that he's finding himself, and here it feels like he's acknowledging that Hannibal is trying to persuade / seduce him, and and he's saying it out loud, like he's like, no, this is a fight, and we are battling one another, and they talk about how they are very similar, how they are just alike, that they are alone, and then in some way they're even more alone when they are together, and versus when they are without each other, which is kind of sad and sweet at the same time. It's very much
it's
like
codependency.
Yeah, we're bad for each other but can't stay away kind of situation.
It's the bad romance, right?
Man, which one is the Joker and which one is the Harley Quinn is the question we have to ask ourselves.
Yeah.
Or I guess in this case, which one is the Batman and which one is the Joker? That would probably be a better.
Yes, I agree.
I'm sorry, I just compared Hannibal to the Joker, everybody. I apologize.
I mean...
I'm not
I
far
mean-
off. Like on a good Joker is kind of like aspiring to do what Hannibal does. So
A Heath Ledger Joker, you
exactly,
know, like
yeah.
Yeah.
Specifically, not to. This was just a random joke, and not to get off on a tangent, but like when the Heath Ledger tells Batman in The Dark Knight, like I can't exist without you, right? Like
Yeah.
you're the reason that makes me do all this crazy shit. Like that's I love that idea in Batman of it causing more problems. And the Joker, like, you're inspiring me to be fucking crazy and weird. Like it feels very much like Hannibal at that moment. So.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I love that.
yeah.
It's so good.
Let's
I love
do the
that.
Batman movies after the podcast is over.
Ugh, not all of them, just that one.
No. We're starting at the beginning. I want to see Michelle Pfeiffer lick herself in a cat suit because that was what the '90s gave us, and we need to talk about it.
I do love that one, I have to say. It's
I love
just
all those.
So funny.
They're all dumb. But there's also like a very interesting earnest to that treatment of Batman that I like a lot. So
Yeah.
the penguin just was raised by penguins, which is just a very funny idea.
I think I like Batman the best when it's like actually comic book like.
Yeah.
That's when I like Batman the best.
There's we are so off topic. I'm sorry, but the guy who plays the Riddler, Jim Carrey, he was on the same movie set as who played Two-Face, the famous actor dude. This is gonna bug me.
Like which one? I don't know anymore.
Yeah. But anyway, it's like this, like, very sorry. Tommy Lee Jones.
Yes.
So he's playing against Tommy Lee Jones. Of course, Jim Carrey's a huge fan, and Tommy Lee Jones probably never heard of Jim Carrey in his life. But so he goes up to it and like, hi, I'm Jim Carrey, blah blah blah, and Tommy Lee Jones just looks at him and says, I cannot withstand your buffoonery, and then Jim Carrey is just like, okay, see you later. Just going to leave. I'm out of here. Anyway.
Oh, Jim Carrey. I love Jim Carrey actually, like for so many reasons. And I feel like he's one of the ones that like hasn't had any like allegations against him.
Yes.
And I'm
yeah.
just like and it makes so much sense with like the person that he is. And like I'm sure he's problematic in other ways. We all are, right? But like it's just like I feel like Jim Carrey is like one of the solid ones, you know?
He his reaction to Will Smith slapping Chris Rock at the Oscars a couple of years ago really made me respect him. Of like, I couldn't believe that it happened. I couldn't believe people had a standing ovation. I can't believe that he wasn't escorted away. Like it's such hypocrisy. Like it's just they're all cowards. And I was like, yes, absolutely, thank you. Back to Hannibal.
Yeah.
We move back to the interrogation room, and now Jack is questioning Bedelia, and she says that she could never believe that the FBI could protect her. She says something to the extent of like, "Are you?" And you probably think you're protecting Will. And she says that she believes that Will is lonely, and that loneliness makes us vulnerable, and that Will isn't alone. He's got Hannibal, and I love this. She says she's never witnessed Hannibal commit a crime. She's only witnessed Hannibal's influence, which of course only works when someone is unaware. And that she says that Will may be unaware of Hannibal's influence. Again, going back to the idea of persuasion and seduction here, another word for influence. And she's like in big red neon flashing lights, like trying to give Jack the warning here.
I mean, so I think that Will is a lot more in control than she thinks. I think he is much more aware of his influence than she thinks. But I also think, and I also think that despite all of this control, Will is also genuinely falling in love with Hannibal. And I think that that's the thing that he's unaware of.
Yes.
And that's the thing that could potentially change things, like when it comes down to it. Like that's how I read the situation.
She also tells Jack, like, if you think you're about to catch Hannibal, that's because he wants you to think that. Basically saying that Hannibal kind of stays several steps ahead of the FBI.
Mm-hmm.
And Jack takes this in. There's a certain amount of arrogance, I think, that comes with being a cop, where Jack just does not believe this. Where he's like, no, our plan is working. we're going to catch him.
But the following scene is just so funny.
Yeah, because we move from this to Hannibal preparing a Ukrainian dish that I can't pronounce, and I'm not going to try to butcher, but it's essentially like these tiny fish that are placed in this like bone broth gel, and it's always unexpected because like you serve it at the table and you take the dish off after you flip it over, and you just never know what it's going to look like. And it's called the Eternal Chase because these tiny fish like look like they're chasing each other around like the ring. It's almost like the gel dish is almost like from a bundt pan or from a bundt cake almost.
Yeah, that's the thing. Think like a Jello. It's a jelly, right?
Yeah.
So like think like Jello flipped over in a bundt pan. That's what it is. So like just to kind of like make it clear, this dish basically has to be cooled down bone broth, and it has to be like cooled down enough that it stays in one piece. And so like just the thought of eating like cold fish and cold like broth, like bone jelly is just like so abhorrent to me. Like I'm just like, this is offensive.
I mean, this is, you know, when you first, maybe you haven't experienced this. I never ate sushi until I was probably like 19 years old.
Yes.
And so like,
I see what you're saying.
There's an aspect of like when you first taste sushi where you don't really know what you like or what you don't. And there's a huge issue with texture. Like if you're just not used to eating some of those things. And I would imagine this is just a texture fucking nightmare.
A sensory nightmare. Yeah.
Yeah. Just like, again, like cold jelly, cold fish, presumably they're like descaled or whatever, but like also like what what are we, it just seems so gross.
Exactly. And I'm sure that it's a delicacy, and like I'm not like dissing the actual dish, but to me the idea is like unimaginable. Like I just cannot imagine eating this dish. But
of course it's thematically appropriate because as Hannibal describes it, it's the eternal chase, or as he describes it, I think Jackass, like, oh, it's the eternal chase. And Hannibal says that the dish makes it unclear who is chasing whom, which obviously works, right? Because like we just got finished with Bedelia telling him that. So, and
like our girl, right? Our girl, she is like right on the money with what she said. Like this man is literally feeding Jack Crawford a dish, most likely made with human remains, mind you, that he called the Eternal Chase. Like you really just have to admire how close he's flying to the sun. And like, again, how much pleasure he's taking in this. Like he is having fun. This is his hobby, right? Like this is like the pleasure that he takes in this moment is just,
it's a lot. How great that we get an episode with Bedelia on the weekend of International Women's Day. Such good timing.
I love that.
Hannibal says the jelly is derived from bone as life is made from moments. And Jack, of course, asks, like, what moment are we in now? And he's pretending to have doubts about Will and says that Alana is convinced that Will is a murderer. And as Hannibal is like, you can, that's going to make you ask questions, that's made them. Jack says, well, I just have a general lack of trust. And Hannibal says, well, if you have a lack of trust, that generally makes people turn to religion, so you must rely on God. And Jack says he's going to rely on himself. But that he doesn't know who is pursuing whom at this moment. And Hannibal makes a witty repartee saying, whoever is pursuing whom at this moment, I intend to eat them. And I just,
Hannibal.
I just like the fact that Jack like chuckles at this and is like, oh, ha, 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 ha. Like, and like knowing what he does, like it's, again, Will is not the only good fisherman at the table. We cut to more cooking. And this time it is Will making his own dog food.
Foreshadowing.
Yes, absolutely. And as he feeds his dogs, a very fancy car drives up, and it's Mason Verger. And as Will walks over, he gets patted down. And we can't hear this conversation, but they have a conversation, and Mason invites him inside the car, and I'm just like, go put your dogs inside the house, please. Like, lock up. What are you doing? You can't just leave your dogs outside in the cold. Thank you. What about Winston?
What about Winston?
And from here we go to Hannibal's office, where he is, just drawing, just having some little downtown. When Mason's
indulging in a hobby
on a weekend, And who enters but Carlos? This is Mason's guy.
Yeah.
And he enters with the man behind him. And as Hannibal looks up, he sees in the reflection that there's another man behind him. So there's 3 men total. The guy behind him is Mateo, which we're going to shortly learn is Carlos's brother. These guys are a much bigger thing in the books. like that, we learn a lot about Carlos and Mateo.
Okay, because I was gonna say, like, I didn't hear, because I rewatched like the whole thing yesterday, and I'm like, I don't see where they're brothers, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, I don't see it. I don't know. Like, and so okay, so that explains that they're brothers.
Yeah, that's the reason Carlos gets so upset. They may not even say brothers here. I think that it's just
They
Carlos
don't.
being super upset about it. Yeah.
They don't. And Mason even says something about, like, we can give Mateo's family the doctores cojones or something. So,
Yeah.
like, he makes a different, like, his family. So I was like, what do you, so, like, were they lovers? Like, they're not brothers? Are we talking about Supernatural again?
Yes, absolutely. Are they lovers, not brothers? But yeah, they attack Hannibal. I think this is the first time maybe we've heard Hannibal speak Italian. And,
Yes.
and I don't know I don't know.
First time.
Yeah. And I don't. God damn it.
Okay. All right. The first time.
It's very hard not to give stuff away in this show. I mean, like, you've seen the names of the 3rd season, right? Like, it's all Italian
Yes,
dishes.
they are in
so like it's not
Italian,
like
yes.
I don't think that's a huge spoiler.
Yes, but I mean, no, but at the same time, like, this is not happening in Japan. You know what I mean? Like,
also
it's-
that. Yeah,
yes.
also that.
So, but yes, okay, because I was like, oh, this is interesting. But yeah, okay, so, okay, are we traveling in season 3? Okay, don't say anything. Continue.
It's so hard. It's so hard, you guys. And I say so much sneaky shit. Like the episode that came out today, people are like, Jeremy, I can't believe you said that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
There's some sneaky stuff in there. So
I'm going to have to re-listen to them.
They attack Hannibal. Hannibal very quickly like stabs Mateo in the femoral artery, but then Carlos takes him down with a taser gun. And there's this very funny moment where Carlos, obviously concerned about Mateo, looks over and Mateo grabs the knife that's still in his leg and pulls it out, of course, causing even more blood to come out. And Hannibal just says, "Oh, he should not have done that."
I was literally screaming at Mateo. I was like, "Don't take out the knife!" And like, seriously, like, life-saving advice. Like, in general, never remove a thing that is stabbing you, because it might actually be the thing that is keeping you alive.
Yes.
Like, do not remove something that is stabbing you.
And Hannibal's down. He has been knocked out, and when he wakes up, in an eerie replication of Will's dream from earlier, he is hanging in a straitjacket on the line that, as we know, is going to swing over above the pygmies. Carlos is there, and Hannibal makes a bunch of references to the books, which we don't really have to get into, but Carlos is from a specific side region of Italy, which is known for like professional kidnappers. Like, always, if you're going to get kidnapped, like, these guys will treat you right, but they're just looking for the money. Like, they're not going to hurt you. Right. And that was the case, but like, that's not the case here. Now it is personal. And Hannibal, as Hannibal likes to do, put salt in the wound. Like, I take it Mateo didn't make it. Did he soil himself? He must smell worse than you by now. Which of course causes Carlos to lose his temper and
right.
Mason has to show up and like, no, you're not allowed to touch this guy. And as you mentioned,
literally like poking the fat of Carlo, right, in that moment.
Excellent reference. Yeah, I love it. And Mason comes in and like settles this by promising the doctor's cojones to the family. And surprise, Will is also there.
Yeah. Oh my god. I was like, oh my god, this is
a lot.
Like this.
Yeah. This is an intense moment where you're like, what in the fuck is happening? Mason takes the knife from Carlos, and he has this like celebratory moment where he talks about basically that he's winning, right? Like that he's excited to kill, and then he hands the knife to Will and says, "I've muzzled the dog. Now it's time for you to put him down."
What a choice of words from Mason.
Yeah. Well, you got it last
yeah.
week when you said we should feed
We should
Mason
feed
to
him
the
to
dogs.
the dogs. I know, I can't believe I said that. Now I understand your reaction.
It absolutely fucking short circuited my brain, and I just couldn't even. I was so glad it was just going to happen on the next episode. Like, I was so happy.
To be fair, there's absolutely no way that I could have imagined this. Like, I
No.
kind of like, if anything, I was like, oh, okay, so like they're just gonna get rid of his body by feeding him to the dogs. Like, that's kind of when I realized like how much you were reacting to this. I was like, oh, okay, so this must be what happens. Never in my wildest nightmares would I have imagined what's about to happen. But anyway, yeah.
Will holds the knife to Hannibal's throat, and Mason has to stop him, saying, "Hey, no, don't just like kill him. Like, we just want a small cut so the blood comes out, so that it'll tease the pigs."
I just love this moment because Mason is like yelling in his usual Mason way, and he's very oblivious because, again, no self-awareness of what's going on. But like Will and Hannibal are just like gazing into each other's eyes, like they're finally on their dinner date, right? That they've been talking about, and nothing else matters around them. And even Carlo is kind of like, "What the fuck is happening here?" Like, he kind of looks at them like, "What is going on?"
Yeah. There's a moment where everybody is like, there's nobody, like, they look around like, are we even in the room? Like, this seems like such an intense private moment. I mean, we are literally living out Will's fantasy right now, right?
Yes, exactly. There you go. It's like that moment where like what he described was going to happen after dinner is about to happen, right? And it's like the excitement of that moment is just like, anyway, it's palpable, so much so that even Carlo, who has no fucking idea who these people are, is like, what?
And at the very last moment, Will flips Hannibal around and uses the knife to cut the back of the straitjacket, cutting him free. He's very quickly hit in the head by Carlos and then knocked out. And as we see some like vague blurs of fighting, but Will is quickly knocked out, and the point of view goes with him. He wakes up later on the same platform, and beside him is this huge like swath of blood, but nobody else is there. He reaches for the controls to the line, and he lifts up the body that was obviously in the pig pen or the pig maze, and he's got to be worried that this is going to be, if it's Mason, then he is fairly like legally culpable for Mason's murder if like Hannibal killed him. If it's Hannibal, then like obviously he's not going to be able to catch Hannibal, and they'll never be able to prove that Hannibal was the one that did all of this. And then but it turns out it's a character that doesn't matter anymore because it's just Carlos. His body half eaten, his pieces of him hanging down in strips. It's super gross, and it's
Is he really worried about not being able to catch Hannibal, or is he worried that Hannibal is dead?
Yes.
Because I don't know if at this point it's really about catching Hannibal anymore. And I know that he really is telling himself that, but I just... Do you remember when Will was like, the only way to get him is to kill him?
Yes.
Well, like that would have been like an answer to this problem, right? But again, now Will is like, oh no, and he's really worried that like it's Hannibal, because I don't think he wants him dead.
No.
I don't think he wants him dead anymore. I don't think so.
I think he definitely it's interesting because like you wonder, presumably, let's say that Will catches him, right? Mm-hmm. And they manage to pin some murders on him, and he goes to jail. Right. Which, like, we've seen Silence of the Lambs, and we've seen Hannibal in jail, and the interaction that he had with Clarice. When Hannibal, quote unquote, caught Will and put him in jail, he very quickly realized, like, this is not our fun time. Like, I've put you here, but now I kind of want you back, and like, influenced events, persuaded people around him, seduced people around him in order to be able to get Will released. And you wonder, like you said, is this about catching at this point, or is this about being with? Because I have to imagine that Will thinking that Hannibal is in jail is maybe not something that he necessarily wants either. So
I mean, again,
or maybe he does.
I think this is
so.
Well, I don't know. I really don't know, because I think that it's very confused for him in this moment, right? I think he thinks he wants something. He thinks he wants Hannibal caught. I think the moment that it's going to happen, he's going to be like, oh man, I don't know if this is really what I wanted.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
These lovers. These lovers.
Mason wakes
Sorry.
up. And immediately we know something is kind of strange in this scene. And we hear these like kind of strange wind instruments and strings. And Hannibal puts some sort of yellowish powder into a vial and uses like a inhaler to give it to Mason. And it instantly makes him incredibly high, and he just starts cackling. These are a bunch of like, basically this is drugs.
This is drugs.
This is drugs.
Like drugs.
Yeah. We see this like interesting. I really like this because I don't necessarily think this is CGI, but like we see this like montage of the drugs hitting his system, going directly to his heart. And as we see his heart speed up, like that becomes like the backbeat of the entire scene, and the backing track of the music. And he begins to see just insane visions. His eyes are like rolling up. He sees pigs on the floor. Hannibal Lecter is there in front of him. His head is moving around and twisting around. Sometimes it turns into a boar's head. Hannibal is talking, but it like echoes throughout, like beyond Mason's understanding. It is obviously Mason is extremely fucked up here.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and full disclosure, I have to be honest, like I didn't understand most of the dialogue in this scene, like, and I think that was kind of the goal. But there is a moment where Mason says, I am enchanted and terrified. And I really feel like that kind of nails down like the Hannibal experience. Like, you know, watching Hannibal, enchanted and terrified. You know?
It'd be a great subtitle to the podcast. Absolutely.
Yes, exactly.
Enchanted and terrified.
That's how I feel whenever I watch this show.
I don't necessarily think number one, I don't think it matters, but number two, like I think the dialogue is obscured for reasons. Like I don't think it's necessary. We're kind of supposed to be living through Mason's moment in this, and he's barely understanding too. He hands Mason a knife. Hannibal hands Mason a knife and tells him to check the depth of a pig's fat. And Mason, who is seeing pigs on the ground, like leans towards the pig, but Hannibal says, no, show me on you. And Mason cackles as he is obviously going to start stabbing himself. And before anything too bad happens, we switch over to Will, who is walking home. I think this is this is one of those times where like I really have to kill the guy in my head that like talks about the realism of stuff, because we've seen like Will's like driveway, like it goes like kind of next to his porch, but like he's just walking through. Like, did he walk home from the Verger house? You know what I'm saying? Like he's walking through the woods. Like it doesn't matter. It absolutely does not matter whatsoever.
I actually just saw a post, I think it was on Twitter or Blue Sky, I can't remember, but it was on one of those where it kind of showed like the distance between Will's house and Hannibal's house, and how apparently there is an episode where he walks from one to the other and it's like 200 miles or something. I'm just like, what?
Way too far.
Yeah.
As he walks to his porch, he sees Winston outside, sitting by himself. Winston, the good boy, aka what's it? Abigail was the dog's real name? The real name? Doesn't matter. It couldn't be Abigail. That's impossible.
I mean, I hope not. That would be weird.
I know. We talked about it. It's an A name, I think, but I don't remember what it is. Anyway, Winston's outside, and Will quickly realizes something is going up. Something is happening. Oh yeah. And he walks into his house and he finds Mason. Mason's voice is now slurred and distorted. And he seems to be feeding Will's dogs like little strips of meat. His hands and arms are bloody and his face is in shadow. He talks about, you know, how he likes dogs. Then he had 2 dogs and he put them in a cage and starved them. And, you know, one ended up with a full belly. And how that's what he should have done with Hannibal and Will, is put the 2 of them in cages. And
they would have loved that, Mason.
Yeah. It would have been, finally.
It would have been a different kind of show.
Yeah, they would have been like, thank you. We appreciate that. And Will just says the first thing that comes to his mind, which is, what are you feeding my dogs?
And this Jeremy, is this episode's equivalent of Peter is your social worker in that horse.
It's a great line. Like, what are you feeding my dogs? I know I talked about this a little earlier, just how cold Will can be.
Yeah.
And in this moment, I think it's a great example of how he's just taking this in. Like, I would be screaming and running for the hills, and Will is just like, yep. Yeah. And it gets even worse because he asks this question. Mason looks up, and we're subjected to Mason's face. The lower half has been, I mean, it's a horror show, and we realize that he's been cutting strips of his own flesh off piece by piece and feeding it to the animals. It's insanely gross.
It's. I mean, I know that I've used that word a lot in the past, but like, it's grotesque, right? Like, it's the body horror in this moment is just so awful, and yet it comes second to the horror of realizing that Mason did this to himself, that he was like persuaded or influenced at this point, because he wasn't quite persuaded, right? Because Hannibal used psychedelics to make him do this, but like, that basically Hannibal made Mason do this of his own hand. Yeah. And that, to me, that is the part that is incredibly scary and much more interesting than the actual body horror.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's the thing that, we see at the end of the episode how Mason's going to have to kind of live with this forever, but not like I can excuse self-mutilation, but also like it has to be like the fact that you made me do this to myself, that that's what really hurts. I'm sure that's what like really like eats at Mason, right?
Literally.
And Hannibal arrives.
What a choice of words,
right?
Jeremy.
Right.
I like what you did there.
Hannibal arrives, and as he does so, Mason sees him with the boar's head again.
And I really love that we're seeing Hannibal's victims like associate him with an animal. Like, for Will it was the stag, and for Mason it was the boar. And it's just so interesting to me that there are like wild animals who are considered like quite dangerous to humans if provoked, you know? Mm-hmm. I love that. And it's so subtle, but this fucking show, man, it's so good.
I think this is such a great observation. I did not even think about this at all. And the fact that they've both seen Hannibal through this lens of an animal that should not be provoked is just incredible. Like, I did not pick up on this at all, and this is a great observation and a great subtle thing in the show. So
I just love it. I love it. They're so good.
Talking about like is your social worker in that horse type lines, like Will looking at Hannibal like he fed his face to my dogs.
And I just want to point out that it's only like one dog that's eating this.
It is
meat.
two. When I rewatch it, there are two dogs.
Oh, there's two. Yeah. Okay. There are two dogs, because it's not all of them that are eating this.
It's just the two. Yeah. And obviously it's not Winston, but it is two of the dogs. No.
It's two of the dogs, and one of them is obviously the doodle.
Of course, absolutely. Yeah. Does not care. Going to eat anything I can get my little mouth on. Hannibal says he broadened their palates as I broadened yours. I think this is kind of interesting because obviously I believe this is not the first time Will's animals ate human flesh. Like the time we saw Hannibal check on Will's apartment on his behalf, he fed the dogs some sort of sausage, and I 100% believe that was human. So
100%. Like, and this is also not the first time this season that somebody compares Will to an animal to be trained, and I just I'm like, oh, Will.
Do you remember the first time? I was trying to remember it, and I can't.
Oh, it's Peter who says, like, there's a lot of stuff that I can make you do with proper training, Will. And I was like,
gotcha.
That's either a threat or like a promise of some really good times. Like, like, I don't know which one it is.
I'm watching, I'm covering X-Men for my other podcast. And there's a moment in the cartoon where Xavier is talking to his alien bird girlfriend. And,
okay.
And he says something like, "Oh, like she's the empress of this like space empire or whatever." And he's like, all of your subjects just see me as your pet. And she's like, "Don't worry, you can sit. I'll make you sit down and bark later." And I'm like, "This is a children's show, please. Can you calm down about making Xavier bark?" And it's one of those things that like I don't think you would pick up on at all unless you were, brain poisoned like we are. So
Well, yeah, there you go. It's like one time there's something I picked up and you're like, oh, I didn't think about that. I'm like, well.
that's what we call a very specific type of brain worm.
Exactly.
Hannibal and Will have a conversation about mercy. And Hannibal wonders if Will is going to show him mercy. And Will says, there is no mercy. We make mercy. Like mercy doesn't just exist. We create it by, I guess, being merciful. And Hannibal says, well, then there is no murder too. We make that too. And he says that Will understands murder uncomfortably well.
Jeremy, can we again, just put ourselves in this moment, right? Where there's this man high off of his head who is literally cutting off pieces of his face to feed them to dogs. And they're having this philosophical conversation about mercy and murder. And I just, so going back to that Margot conversation, do you see what I mean? They're always doing that. They're always just having their own little private conversations when other stuff is happening. And I just...
Again, the casualness with which is it casual now? The casualness with which Will is able to experience these absolutely mind-boggling and horrible things. And if he's doing it, I think, and this is what really makes you question how much he's doing this to catch Hannibal and how much he just kind of likes doing this, right? There's an aspect of Will who I think Hannibal is absolutely on the money with, who genuinely enjoys this. And Will is terrified and rightfully terrified of becoming that person. But that's also what is appealing to Hannibal about Will, and Will in these moments is embracing that. And it's just very terrifying to see your quote unquote protagonist go through these experiences and to just again, have this philosophical conversation with a guy. They literally Mason chimes up in the middle of this and says, I'm hungry. And Hannibal says, eat your nose then. And then they just both watch as Mason cuts off his own nose, eats it. You could hear the crunch. He burps and is like, I'm full of myself. And I don't know when Mason became the comedy relief character in this episode, but Jesus Christ.
But this is also the way that a couple would talk to a child when they're when they're trying to have a conversation and the kid is like, I'm hungry. And they're like, well, then eat your nose.
Eat your nose. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mason, I hate this line where he describes himself as the taste and texture of a chicken gizzard. Because I don't particularly like chicken gizzards or anything like that. I've eaten them before, so I know it just uncomfortably no. I don't really get bothered by the eating human flesh in this, especially because 90% of the time the show is dressing it up in these beautiful dishes. So you're like, well, yeah, I mean, maybe I don't know. I'm not saying I wouldn't. I'm just saying I'm not saying I would. Maybe. But this cutting off your nose and eating it raw is super gross, and then to just really use a reference that I absolutely know and have experienced before just really bothers me. So, yeah.
I've never been happier to not have tried chicken gizzard before.
Dude, don't. Because you will think about this.
No, I'm done.
You will think about this. And also, it's just not that great to me. So, there's better food. Will just straight up refuses to kill Mason in this moment. And Hannibal urges him on more, saying Mason was going to feed you to his pigs as soon as he was done with me. You thought you were in this kind of moment with him, you thought you were playing this game, but Mason was definitely going to kill you too. And Mason is like, yes, absolutely.
Oh, Mason.
And Will once again refuses and looks at Hannibal and says, he's your patient, doctor. You do what you think is best for him.
And I just love this line. I love this line so much. I love it, love it, love it. Because this is the typical, he's your brother, you deal with him. Or she's your mother, you deal with her kind of thing in a couple, right? Will is like, no. This is your mess, you deal with it. You wanted to come to this restaurant, service is shit, you deal with the waiter. It's literally that moment of Will being like, no, you know what? No. I am not doing that. You're dealing with it. And I again, like, it shows the intimacy of it. And Hannibal doesn't, like, he's like, okay, fine.
Yes.
I love it.
There's
So
even like a
good.
weird there's no hesitancy in Hannibal doing this, but there's almost like a sense of obligation of doing it, and then so he walks behind
Yeah.
Mason, he snaps Mason's neck, and then he kind of pauses for a minute, and I don't think you really understand what's happening here until you know that Mason survived in this, that he's very carefully snapping the spinal cord without killing him, but he kind of measures his pulse, and then he like props the head up so apparently he won't like choke on his own vomit or anything. And then there's like this weird fastidiousness to Hannibal where he has blood on his hand, so he kind of like wipes it onto Mason's shirt, and then as he walks away, he's kind of doing like that. I've got like water residue on my hands from washing my hands, like the sprinkle thing, like, and I'm just dying. I'm just losing my mind about Hannibal.
I did the honey. I went through the honeydew list. Like that's
exactly. Yeah, it's very much a honeydew list. It's like, okay, fine.
Yes.
Like I'll change the filter and the whatever or whatever.
Yeah. And again, like, because when I saw that happen, I thought that I was going to say Winston, but that Mason was dead. And so I just want to point out that this is yet another character that I thought was dead who isn't actually. I don't know. I'm just going to say that. I'm just going to say that.
Shout outs to my Abigail truthers out there who are watching along. Very excited to hear all of your opinions about.
And Chilton, by the way. We still don't know if Chilton is dead.
He got shot in the face by a bullet in an FBI interrogation room. Like,
listen, I fully agree with you. I thought he was dead, but then again, like, Mason's neck was like completely twisted off. I didn't think he was going to survive this, and yet he does.
And we don't have to wait very long to find out, because the next scene. This also plays fast and loose with our timeline, by the way. Like, but also, who cares? Jack walks into Mason's room. There's a fish tank underneath the room with the window looking down, where we see this brutal moray eel that Jack tells Mason is a beautiful creature, and Mason's like, "Do you want me to show you why we call him why it's called brutal?" And Jack is like, "No, not really." And the camera turns, and we finally see Mason. He's propped up in a hospital bed. He's hooked to some machines. One of his red scrubbed nurses walks away during the middle of this conversation. His entire lower face is covered with like a flesh covered mask, and he's immobile. He's paralyzed from the neck down.
Yeah.
And Jack asked about Hannibal. Or about what happened to him, and Mason says that he fell into a pig pit, and that he was lucky that his sister found him and was able to pull him out before the pigs were able to, mutilate him even more. And Jack is a little suspicious. He's like, pigs did this? And this is another classic example of like, and Jack may actually know, but Mason is answering in such a way as to be very vague. Like, he would pass a lie detector test because he's like, pigs did this? And Mason says yes. And because he literally saw Hannibal Lecter as a pig, right? Like Jack also asks about Hannibal, and Will Graham. Mason says he recognizes Will Graham's name from the newspapers, but has not met him. And Jack says, "Do you find that Dr. Lecter's therapy has been helpful?" And Mason says, "Absolutely." He says, I'm still benefiting from his therapy, and I can only hope that I can repay him one day.
Good God.
And of course, this has double meaning, and this is basically the end of the conversation, and Jack leaves. And then who should enter but our girl Margot, looking like she stepped out of Cersei's closet from season 7, Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Absolutely love. Like, her fits have always been good in this show, but like this really, like, Jesus Christ, like, where do you even find this? Like, where are you going? Again, are you at Paris? Did you come from Paris Fashion Week? Like, where did you find this outfit?
She was hanging out with Bedelia.
Absolutely. If only, right? Like, give me that Bedelia Margot romance. Where is that at?
Oh, yes.
Bedelia Margot, Margot Alana, Beverly Alana. Like, what would you be? What would your favorite be?
Oh no, I don't know. I think Bedelia and Beverly would work really well.
Okay.
just because like they're so different that I think that it would have like a sapphic like Hanagram kind of feel to it
Sure,
that I kind of
yeah.
love. But I really like the idea of like Margot and Bedelia also, I have to say.
So we just ship Gillian Anderson with everybody, is what I'm hearing.
I think so. I mean, yes. I just want her to be happy, you know? Like I want all of her needs taken care of.
Just need everybody to take care of Gillian Anderson.
Exactly.
Mason asks, is it time to talk about what Margot wants? And Margot responds, what Margot wants is to take care of you, Mason, just like you took care of me.
There's nothing to say about this. I'm like, you know what? On this weekend of International Women's Day, and in French also, it's about like it's not Women's Day, it's Women's Rights Day, actually, in Canada. And I just want to say that I support women's rights. And I also support women's wrongs.
Absolutely.
And I am just in for whatever Margot is going to want to do to Mason.
And I also want to point out that this is another example of Hannibal. I don't want to say doing right, but planning outcomes, planning potential outcomes to, as he described this to Will, like this situation provides many opportunities. Obviously one of these opportunities was for Will to kill Mason while Hannibal watched, which I feel like is what Hannibal would have wanted the most. But what ended up happening, and what Hannibal was very careful to provide when Will refused to kill him, is it's a solution for Margot. So now Margot is not, obviously she's still dependent upon Mason, but she's also in control of him in a very fundamental level. And it's almost like a reward for Margot for the things that Hannibal saw her suffer. And I just think that's
Margot's
interesting.
happiness is important, and her suffering is independent from her. This comes back to that conversation. Ooh, I love that.
Yeah. I just, again, Hannibal playing the chaos gremlin, but at the same time, like, everything that he wants to see what will happen, but he also has like stuff that he has planned out that he wants to happen. It's just very good. It just works.
It feels like this is the first time that we're seeing him do something like towards what he thinks is just, right? Because I don't want to call what happened justice, like, right? But like what he thinks is justice. And I don't think that we've seen that before, but that is something that is kind of fundamental to Will.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, like that idea that like they're obscuring one another's thoughts is just like...
Well, playing off that, like, I mean, this could be, instead of Hannibal wanting this could be Hannibal seeing that this is what Will would have wanted, or thinking that this is what Will would have wanted. Because Will obviously like had some sort of connection to Margot, and this like, barely a connection to this unborn baby. And this could be his way of like almost apologizing to Will, of like, no, I set her up good. Like I did right by her.
I set her up good. Yeah, exactly.
Hannibal, we switch over to Hannibal's office, and he's drawing at his desk when Will arrives. This is a very, I'm not using this word as a pejorative. This is a very gay drawing. I don't know how else to describe this.
No, it's gay. Like it's gay. Like, yes, it's gay. We'll talk about that.
This is Achilles lamenting Patroclus, who Hannibal described as defined by his empathy. And Will points out that Achilles was killed, of course, in battle while wearing his armor. So they're kind of talking about each other as if they were these two.
Right. And I just like, I'm going to do some self promo here, but like my friend JJ and I recorded a podcast episode together on Carrying Wayward, where we go like in depth about Achilles and Patroclus and Greek tragedy as a genre and like queer stories through the ages. And the fact that Hannibal is like seeing him and Will as Achilles and Patroclus is like the definition of like gay boy down bad at the gym. Like I don't even know how to say this, but it's like the queer equivalent of like a hetero couple comparing themselves to like the famous hetero couples that you can imagine. Like think like Romeo and Juliet. Think like Guinevere and Lancelot, like Mulder and Scully, for fuck's sake.
Well,
you know, like
you could say you could tell you watched the Merlin show because you said Guinevere and Lancelot and not Guinevere and Arthur.
well, I mean, it's also like in the Arthurian legends, like she is very much in love with Lancelot, right? Like, and Lancelot is in love with her. Guinevere and Arthur are like a marriage of convenience. You know, like it's anyway. But it's just teen love, right? Like it's telling me that I don't think that Hannibal has ever been in love before, because this is the kind of stuff that you do when you're kind of like discovering what romantic love is about, not when you're like a middle-aged man, you know? Like I really love it because it's so soft and vulnerable. Like it's, again, the human veil is gone. Like Hannibal is just like literally showing himself to Will.
You know, it's number one, I wanted to say, like, I listened to that podcast when it came out, and everybody should go check it out if they have an interest in these kind of conversations, because JJ and Mary did a wonderful job. Also, like, it was interesting timing when y'all released that, because I had been playing a video game called Hades, which is a video game where you play like the son of, or you're trapped in hell with like the Greek, and like you were trying to escape hell, and you were along the way you meet like all of these tragic Greek figures or whatever, and you can like advance their storyline. And if you scroll down to the notes, I actually put like the art of Achilles and Patroclus that was in the game, because part of the storyline is like meeting those two, and like reuniting them in the game, which is super cool. So like I had just done that when you guys released that podcast, and I was like, this is really fucking, like, if I had two nickels.
Yeah, seriously, that's so cool.
But yeah, absolutely. Like this is very much like puppy love. I'm gonna write you bad poetry, and like pick out like, you know, boy band songs to be our song together and things like that. Like I'm really, and again, like just putting away that veil, and showing. Like there's like, this is as obvious as Hannibal can get, I think, with Will.
He's doing fan art
yes.
of like Achilles and Patroclus as him and Will. Like I just like this is so much more than my little gay heart can handle. Like he loves him so much.
It's a lot. It's a whole lot. They talk about how Achilles wanted all of the Greeks to die so that him and Patroclus could conquer Troy together, and how it took divine intervention to bring them down. Yeah. And I'm like, I wonder what that could be referring to, Hannibal.
And this is a direct callback to like the codependency conversation, right?
Exactly.
Like this idea that like all of the Greeks could die so that he and Patroclus could conquer Troy. And like, anyway, it's just...
It's too much.
It's the bad love.
It's too much.
It's a bad love. It's a good love, but it's a bad love. You know what I mean? Like,
Will takes all this in, and as he walks up through the fireplace, he says that this is not sustainable. And Hannibal says that, you know, Jack told
Hannibal
him,
is fucking devastated, first of all.
yeah, you can tell that, like, this is the end of his fun time, right? Like, he can tell that happy hour is coming to a close. Like, you can't go home, but you can't stay here. He's realizing like that he's going to have to wrap some of this up, as he tells, you know, Will, like, Jack told me he suspects you, and Will says, well, if Jack is telling you that he suspects me, that means that he suspects you. And Hannibal's just like, I know, I get it. And then it kind of in a reversal, Will starts encouraging Hannibal to give Jack what he wants, to reveal himself, to let him see you with clear eyes. And yeah, it's not the first time, but like, I feel like this is the most direct Will has been with trying to influence Hannibal to do something.
Oh yeah. Like absolutely. Like this is Will, like using his ability of persuasion, literally appealing to his rationality, but also kind of seducing him. Like he's, you know, like, cause there's like this element of like, you need to do this. It's, I don't know. It's like, oh, you need to get your degree before we can, you know, get married or something. Like, it's just, this episode is so gay.
Well, and there's also like, I think there's an implication here of, you know, give Jack what he wants so that we can move on. Right? Like, I feel like that's what Will is kind of promising without actually saying, of like, let's close this chapter so we can open the next one. Right. And
That's the seduction part.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm reading that between the lines. So I mean, like that could be just me headcanoning stuff, but like to me, that's the
No, I agree.
That's the bait on the hook, right? Like that's that's what Will is trying to accomplish, is like get him to follow Will into something.
Yes, the bait on the hook. You're so right, because the whole conversation between Jack and Will earlier is like, we need the correct bait. Mason was not the correct bait. This is the correct
Will
bait.
is the correct bait. Yeah. Like
Will is the correct bait.
And also, like, you know, let's talk about how Will has listened to Bedelia, right? Like his Hannibal's fascination with himself, and what is Will saying to do, but reveal himself, like let him see with clear eyes, like playing into that overconfidence, playing into that whimsy. Will is a very astute student when it comes to like Hannibal Lecter and the people that Hannibal Lecter have impacted, and so he listened to Bedelia very carefully and is laying out his bait on his hook very carefully.
That's why I'm saying I think he's a lot more in control than most people think, but I do think that he is underestimating his feelings for Hannibal. I don't think he's fully aware of them.
Oh, I think it's a battle, right? Like, I think that's going to be the thing, is like there's an internal struggle within Will to embrace these dark urges, while he's also trying to flee them, right? And it's also, I think, for Will particularly, like, it must be really difficult to differentiate between his regular empathy towards like serial killers versus like potentially in this case, like budding romance or budding romantic love that he feels for Hannibal specifically. It's I think most people have gone through the situation of being the object of someone's affection that you don't want, right? I mean, you have a pretty spectacular horse story that we've covered on the podcast that covers this. But like, I think most people have gone through some form of like, oh no, I don't like you in that way, and the fact that you like me in this way like makes me creeped out. And I think it's very, very on the nose that Will is not a single time do we see him be uncomfortable with Hannibal's attraction to him, with Hannibal's fascination with him. And I say that at the very beginning, yes, but as it's not since he's been released from jail or whatever. There's not been a single time in this season where he's been like, oh my God, like this creepy guy really likes me. Like, it's not ever been that. It's always been, you could tell he likes it in some way, and he doesn't like that he likes it, but also that he also does like it a whole lot. So exactly. Doesn't it suck that we're planning this whole live watch and that you can't just go immediately watch the finale right now and freak out?
Yeah, honestly, I don't even know. I don't know how I'm going to deal with this, but
it's just a week.
Yeah, it's just a week.
It's just a week. You can watch the whole of season 2 again.
I could actually, yeah. It's this is going to be interesting because I have to finish like a very important paper in my PhD journey actually this week, and
congrats.
This is going to be like a reward. It's going to be like a reward.
It's a reward.
It's a reward. It's like a reward for finishing this paper. So there you go. I am also training myself like a dog.
little morsels of Hannibal for any major accomplishment in your life.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I don't know exactly how this is going to work out, but the goal is to record ourselves watching the show. I have the idea to edit some of it down and throw it on YouTube. So stay tuned for the next episode for details on that. But if you want to see us do any of that stuff in the future, it's already too late. Because we're recording this in March, and like I don't think these episodes are going to come out till like well into April.
Yeah.
So, but also join the Discord so you won't miss out in the future, because that's where we're watching.
Do join the Discord. Honestly, it's a lot of fun. We've said this before. It's not overwhelming. Like there aren't that many channels. They're easy to navigate, and people are chill.
It's like 90% Hannibal memes. It's pretty much like most of the conversation is just like various Hannibal memes that people have created. So
yeah, absolutely.
With that, you want to go into our haiku section?
Absolutely. you like to get us started today?
Sure. You open my neck. You bathe in the blood or love. Doesn't matter which.
Ooh, I like that. Okay. I feel like I've already used the last line of mine now that I read it back. I'm like, I feel like I've already said
It's okay.
this. But anyway, I'm just going to go with it. Consuming my thoughts, I stay up all night, yearning for you to see me.
Ooh.
I feel like I've said this before. Like this is, I've said this already, but I just, that's what.
Look, it's difficult to not have the same sort of feelings around this show. So don't blame yourself.
I would be so interested in looking at all of these haikus together to see like the progression of them.
Yes.
And how often we place ourselves in Will's point of view
versus Hannibal.
like Hannibal's. Yeah. And like if that switches throughout the season, because I feel like I've been talking as Hannibal a lot more than I have before.
I think we both start out very comfortable in Will's POV. So it would be interesting if we constantly switch to Hannibal. Yeah, that would be would say something about us. We would be changed. Maybe.
Yes. Well, yeah. I know I am. I'm gonna own it. This show is changing me.
Thank you everybody for listening. We're approaching the end of season 2, obviously, which means that we're going to have a feedback episode. So you can write in and tell us how wrong all of Mary's theories have been throughout the season. Also, your thoughts and feelings about season 2, your experiences with the show in general. We're going to have a special guest with us to discuss the whole season, as well as to talk about your thoughts and feelings. rudeeatspodcast@gmail.com is the place to be for that. You can also send us a message at, is it just Rude Eats at Blue Sky? Rude.eats at Blue Sky?
I think so.
Just type in Rude Eats to Blue
like
Sky and you'll find us. It's not hard.
You'll find us. Or if you're on the Discord, just, send a message, post something in one of the channels and just say like for the feedback episode.
Yeah. And if you do that, at me, so I've remembered to do it, because otherwise I will absolutely forget. But thank you everybody for listening. Like I say this every episode, but like every time we get like people commenting and talking about it and like listening to it as soon as it comes out, it's always very exciting to me. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Sundays are always a great day because we always get like a lot of comments and stuff, and it's like, yes, it's true. Oh, yes, it's true. We did say that.
We did say that. Yeah, 8 weeks ago,
yeah.
we did have that conversation.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. And until next time, bon appetit.
Bon appetit. Another 2 hours and 15 minutes on a 45-minute episode of television.
Is she back?
Hello. I am. Oh my God. It like did so many updates and then it would like get to almost the end and then it would like, I don't know if it would do another update or if it would restart, but it did that a few times and I was just like, this is like the worst.
I've been, the exact same thing happened to me the other day. And it's always really frustrating because you're like, oh my God, somebody is waiting for me. I am wasting their time. They're going to be so mad at me. And like, in my situation, it was just Chris. Like, Chris doesn't give a shit. And like, in your situation, it's me. And I obviously don't give a shit. But like, yeah.
Oh my God. It's just so annoying because like, it takes forever, right? Because it's just like trying to do something quickly. In my case, like just start GarageBand. And it just would not start until I did that update. Anyway, it's snowing where I am. And,
it's snowing?
Yeah, it's snowing like pretty hard. And Clochette is like going crazy because she always tries to catch the snowflakes.
Of course.
Mind you, she's never been outside, right, to actually catch the snowflakes. But like she's at the window, like just pawing at the door, trying to catch the snowflakes. Oh my goodness, she's so cute.
It's one of those situations where you're like, I want to let you out, but you can't be like, I'm not ever going to do it.
Well, the thing is, if I let her out, I will never see her again. She will never come home.
That's how we feel about our dogs. My dad and his previous wife, like they had 2 Boston Terriers, and they got them as puppies, and they were they raised them, and like so there was it was like a no leash situation when they would go to like the camp or like when they were outside in the yard. But both of our dogs, all of our basset hounds have been adoptees. Like we didn't get them as puppies. We got them as either strays or like rescues or whatever. And I just know like if Rosie leaves the house, she's finding a new family. Like that's there's absolutely no question in my mind. She's like I've already smelled a possible family. Like I am headed that direction.
Rosie's like, it's time for a change.
I am done with these people. They spend too much time with Penny. I would like to find another family that focuses on me. So,
oh, poor Rosie. No. I'm sure she's got a good life. I'm just saying, like I've seen how you guys treat like your fish. So I assume that you treat your dogs just as well, if not better, right?
I asked Autumn today which pets she preferred, like the horses, the dogs, or the fish, like what was number one. And she was just like, I just like Party Boy. Party Boy is the only animal that I like in this house. And I was like, oh, okay.
I love that. I love that answer.
Yeah, the time changes a motherfucker, man. Like I woke up today and looked at my phone and was like, how did I sleep this late? And then like walked into the kitchen and saw the stove and was like, what?
And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's what's going on.
It's still super dark outside, so do not like.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like is it still dark where you are? Well,
it's lighting it up right now. Yeah, like I think
okay.
sunrise was 7:45 or something. So like it's it's brightening up.
That's not fun. Yeah, for us it's like still pretty gray because it's like snowing, right? But because of the white everywhere, it's actually pretty bright, which is great.
It's really nice, really really nice.
I indulged in a hobby yesterday.
A hobby?
Yeah, hobby.
On a Saturday?
On a Saturday.
What'd you do?
I busted out the sewing machine and I started putting together a piece of clothing. And I'm very excited about it.
Nice.
Yeah. I hadn't done that in a very long time.
You told me you were making a sleeveless shirt. And it reminded
me of a collar.
And it reminded me of my granddad. Because he bought he wore the same exact outfit every single day.
As most granddads, actually. Yeah. Like I don't know. Mine did too.
Like, at a certain point he was like, this is the style.
This is the uniform, He's like, this is what I wear every day.
But there was
he had his Levi's and that was it.
Very specific denim shirt that he would buy multiple copies of, and he would bring them home, and his mother was still living, my great-grandmother was still living, and she would cut the sleeves off the denim shirts and then sew it up, and so he had sleeveless denim shirts, and that was like his thing. That was what he wore. So
that's basically what I'm making, to be honest.
Yeah. When you sent me the picture, I was like, Papa would wear that if it was just denim colored. Like it's very similar. It looks very nice though.
I love that I have the same style as like a grandfather. That's me. That's what I'm going for.
Yeah.
Like that's cool. I like
Deep
that.
South grandfather vibes. Absolutely, 100%.
Oh, I love that for me. But yeah, no, it's really cool. And so the thing is, it's like with the fabric that I had bought like 2 summers ago to try to put together as a dress. And it was like the awful summer that I spent in France where like everything went wrong and like people were mean and people were misogynistic and it was awful. And we didn't put the dress together because like we just couldn't figure out the pattern. And as I was like undoing basically this like failed dress, it was so therapeutic actually, because I was like undoing something that we tried to force, my sister and I, like, and it didn't work, and then now making something that like makes more sense is just like so therapeutic, especially with like my granddad passing away, like, because like that's very much linked to that summer, because he was upset that we were using the iron for some reason. I don't know why, but he was really upset that we were using the iron. So,
Papa, please, Papa.
Exactly. I was like, come on, it's really not a big deal. But yeah. So anyway, so it's actually really cool to be able to kind of like revisit that on my own terms.
Yeah, that's really exciting. That's
Yeah.
That's super cool. I've never sewn anything before. I don't think Autumn has a sewing machine, and I've never seen her sew anything. I've heard her sew a couple of times, but like I just feel like she could just pick up something and sew it right now. Versus me, that would have to watch like 4 hours of YouTube tutorials to be able to get even close to starting. Like
My mom used to sew a lot, actually. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just gonna. My great grandmother was like had a quilting party on a regular basis. Which I thought was like at the time I thought was really, really dumb, and now I look back and I'm like, God, that's the coolest thing ever.
I know, right?
But they made quilts for everybody. So
it's so awful that like there are some things that we were just too young to appreciate, and we're like, oh my God, I wish I could appreciate it now.
It kills me, man. Like, my grandmother, like how she made biscuits or cornbread. My dad has tried to replicate the exact, and it just can't quite get the cornbread right. Like it has tried for years. But it's stuff like that just makes me, I just did not pay attention to, and like I was just too much of a dumb kid to even care about. But yeah, it makes you sad.
But yeah, it really does. Like because my sister and I were talking about like our grandfather's like pâté en croûte, which is like a it's basically pâté, but like in a crust. And he would make it, and it was perfect every single time. And we never bothered to ask him how he makes it or to make it with him. And so now we're like, oh shit, we don't get to eat it anymore, and we don't know how to make it.
Yeah, my mom wrote down her. She was famous for her lasagna. She wrote down her. So when we found her lasagna recipe, she had written it down. But even now, like Autumn makes it, and she's like, "Oh, we're gonna do this and this and this," and like it's just adapted over time. So
yeah,
it's fun.
Yeah, that's the thing. Oh my goodness! You were gonna say something before I started off on my sewing adventure.
No, I don't think so. If I was, I do not remember it now. So we watched this week. We watched Daredevil. Daredevil came out.
Yes, my little trash panda. I love him so much.
I feel like by the time this airs, like the whole show will have been done. So like the idea of like spoilers is probably kind of moot. But like if you've been saving up to binge the show and you haven't started yet, you don't want to hear spoilers about the first 2 episodes of Daredevil that came out in March of 2025. This is your warning.
Which have been spoiled already all over the internet.
All over the internet, yeah. It's a weird show. Like I think I did myself a disservice by having recently watched the Netflix series. Like I watched that first episode, and it's just brought to mind like I obviously remembered like how beautiful that show was. It was one of my main like things that I liked about it. But seeing it, especially in a modern context with like fancy TV technology and all that stuff, and then immediately going to this, which has kind of a very flat, kind of dull color to it. Yeah. And then some of the CGI stuff, especially in the first episode, is real dodgy. They try to fake like a one-er shot. And you just have like weird smoke effects happening, people like jumping in reaction to nothing. Like it's just really awkward and kind of, you could tell it was rushed and unfinished. But man, it was so good to see the 3 back together again. Like I just seeing Foggy and Karen and Matt all in the same like room together was so nice. So
it was so lovely for the 2 minutes that it lasted.
Yeah, it is unfortunate that they I mean, obviously like they retooled the show at some point and they're like, we're going to bring these characters back. And then I mean, you can just look up the development of it and see like how troubled it was and all the stuff they had to do. But like murdering Foggy in the first part of the episode, and then that's going to make Karen Page leave. She's going to San Francisco. So just like, oh, here's a tease of all of your faves together, and then we're just going to pull them out and replace them with like kind of inferior copies of the roles that those characters provided. That just seems really strange.
But I think that's the thing, right? So they wanted to like born again, that idea of like a rebirth, restart, all of that stuff, rejuvenation, if you will. But I think that they either stayed too close to the first series or not enough. Like whatever they did there of like trying to like pull back like the nostalgia of the first series and yet trying to tell like this different story, quote unquote different, was just so strange to me, because it was like, well, pick one, you know, like either you stay true to the first series or you just start over. Like I would have been fine with either of those, but this kind of in between is just feeling so awkward to me.
Yeah.
Because like you reminded me of how good the show was when it was the three of them together, and now I have to like learn to love brand new characters while still remembering how good the show was when it was the three of them together. You know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
I kind of wish that they hadn't done that almost.
It's I think we're getting towards the tail end of this like awkward Marvel thing where they just really, I think Kevin Feige like taking a step back away from kind of having the helm of this whole operation really impacted a lot of these shows, because they're just, I mean, I mentioned, you know, Secret Invasion, which was heavily rewritten and barely like comprehensible, with some of the worst, like, you know, storyline and plots. And this feels kind of similar, that, you know, oh, we filmed a bunch of stuff and then changed our minds, and now we're having to refilm, re-edit, you know, splice stuff together that doesn't make sense, things like that. And so hopefully we're getting towards the tail end, and like they've already renewed this for season 2 with the current writing team, which is supposed to be a lot better. So who knows what will actually happen as it goes forward. But I just, you know, to me, just even like some basic cinematography stuff, like the interstitial stuff, like the, you know, I don't know why, but like the little Bid Ulrich's grandkid, the little daughter who does the like TikTok video kind of things, interviews, like those don't seem right to me for some reason. Like they just seem like, I don't know, like they just seem bad. I don't know how to explain it. Like it's just weird and lifeless in places. Thank God for Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio, because the best part,
they're doing all of the work.
I mean, their backs must be broken from carrying the show, because I mean, like the highlight of both 2 episodes has literally been one scene with them 2 in a diner just talking to one another.
Honestly,
and that's crazy in a superhero show, and it's great. I love it. Like that's what you want from Daredevil. But
that is what you want with Daredevil. Did you see that apparently they wanted to remove all of the religious imagery? And I'm just like, but how do you have Daredevil without the religious imagery?
Yeah.
Like, it's just, and I'm not a Catholicism like fan or anything, but I just feel like he kind of is, you know, and so he needs like his motivation, his world, his environment, and I'm just like,
it feels fundamental to the character in a way that like his race doesn't, right? Like I would take a black Daredevil, but like if you told me Daredevil existed without being like raised in the Catholic kind of environment that he did, I'd be like, what are you doing? Like this just seems like a, you know, so he just got hit by a truck and then didn't feel real weird about it for his entire life.
But like, how do you even explain all of his motivations? Like his
exactly, yeah.
I believe in, what does he say? Like something like, I believe in grace, but I also believe in retribution. Like that's pretty, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's Old Testament as hell, right? Like that's
I know, right?
That's literally trying to marry Old and New Testament. Like that's what he's doing right there. I want to live by the teachings of Jesus, but also like believe in a just world where God is righteous, and that's a difficult thing to put it together in your mind when you're a superhero. So
I assume so, especially when like you have also been raised by a dad like who was a fighter and who boxed his entire life. You know what I mean? Like it's just, again, like this is the kind of stuff that like made the character. You know, now I'm nostalgic for the first series.
I know,
and I can't go back to it. I told you, right? I'm like, I really want to rewatch it, but I know that I'm gonna bum myself out. I'm like, no, I can't.
Yeah, it's gonna be. Hold on, Autumn is texting me.
Oh yeah. Did she also have thoughts about Daredevil?
That she didn't even watch it.
That's probably for the best, to be honest.
And I didn't. And to be fair, I didn't give her. I wasn't like, let's watch Daredevil. But we watched.
You were like, I'm watching Daredevil.
We watched the first episode together of the Netflix series, and she was like, like I thought. I kind of remember this being funnier. Like I remember liking it, and I was like, no, the Netflix series is pretty. Like you have to be in the mood for it, right? Like I think it's not like, and we were, and like we're background watching this, right? Like we're looking at our phones and just kind of chilling out after busy work days and dealing with life.
Yeah.
And so like she was like, and so I knew going into the new Marvel or the MCU Daredevil that it would be similar, right? So I didn't even bring it up. But like at some point she'll be like, did that ever come out? And I'll be like, yeah, do you want to watch it? It's finished. We watch all 9 episodes.
You know, that's the kind of the cool thing though, that to be able to rewatch it like all together. I think that'll, I don't know. That first episode is just so jarring.
Yeah.
Like honestly, it was so emotional so fast that I was just like, I'm not invested yet. I remember like there's this moment where like Daredevil is like screaming and wailing and I'm just like, I don't feel anything right now. Like this was too fast. Like within the first like 7 minutes of the show, this happens and you're just like, I don't feel it, you know? I don't know.
And then there's, the second episode is better because you get a little bit more used to what they're trying to do. But that's also when it really gets into the Wilson Fisk as mayor thing. And it's interesting. I've seen a bunch of people talk about how like, oh, they're obviously like, ripping off the Trump stuff and it's really, really good. Or I've heard some people say it's really, really bad. And to me, it feels a little too ripped from the headlines. And I get like what they're trying to accomplish with it, but at the same time, it just feels like using something that we're currently going through that's genuinely terrible, right? Like the basically the dismantling of the U.S. government. And they're kind of like using pieces of that to be in their superhero story. And like, I don't think that politics should be out of superheroes. I don't think anything like that. Like, I think we should deal with issues, but it just feels a little cheap. And there's like a lot of this stuff was filmed like before the election, right? So there's no way that they could have known. So the timing is just really weird, but I don't know. Like there's something about using this Trump imagery, like the blue and yellow hats, ball caps that the Trumps or that the Fisk supporters use, the crowds outside. It just left a really weird and bad taste in my mouth. I'm just not ready for writers' rooms to just, constantly make that the bad guy for the next like 10 years. So
if I trusted Marvel to actually go places with this, I'd be like, okay, let's see where this goes. But right now it just feels like a reminder of the reality, right? Like the goal of a superhero villain is that they are so villainous that they're not imaginable. Unfortunately, this is not only imaginable, but this is like the reality for the United States of America at the moment, right? And so it's like, it doesn't leave much room to the imagination.
Yeah. And I don't know, like you said, like if Marvel could be trusted to have commentary on this whatsoever.
Yes, there you go.
If we trusted the writers' room enough to know that, like, even if they tried to get commentary in there, that it wasn't edited out or edited around or whatever, maybe I would be a little bit more forgiving for it. But now I'm just like, the whole time stuff is happening, I'm just kind of rolling my eyes. Well,
it's like that cop that had like the Punisher tattoo on his wrist, right? I do not trust Marvel with that kind of commentary. And I know that you've told me that they've already done it in comics, but I feel like comic book writers and TV writers are a whole different breed of creatives.
Totally different. Absolutely. Yeah.
Of employees also. And that like Marvel will just not allow their biggest like money-making endeavor to quote unquote alienate a large part
absolutely
their audience.
Like in the comics, you literally have like Frank Castle telling cops who are adopting the Punisher logo, like, we are not the same. Like you're basically cosplaying this, right? Like, but I don't.
Yes, of course.
And like, he even says like, you're doing this to, just because you like it, because you enjoy it, whereas I'm doing it because I have to, which is debatable because I mean, like, Punisher as a character,
absolutely,
the existence of Punisher is very debatable. Like the idea that you need somebody like that, but also like, at the same time, like it's Marvel made that commentary of like, no, you guys are bad guys for doing this. It's very much a, if I didn't know you, I would hunt you situation.
But that's kind of the thing, right? Like the whole, like the motivation of Punisher is that he works outside the law. The thing is, police officers are not supposed to do that, right? Like
Exactly.
that is kind of the whole shtick
Yep.
of a police officer, of an officer of the law, right? So I don't know, man. If you want to be Punisher, then don't be a cop. Like,
Exactly.
period.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's as simple as that. So yeah. Ugh. Anyway, I just don't trust Marvel with this stuff. It's like asking me if I trust Supernatural with anything.
Right?
Like,
Yeah.
nope.
100%.
Absolutely not.
Man, I saw on Blue Sky.
Yeah.
Not to relitigate Supernatural, which you and I have done for
Oh, boy.
thousands of hours of our lives, but I guess Misha was on the official Supernatural podcast with Rob Benedict and the other guy, not Ben Edlund. Who's the other guy? Richard Speight.
Richard Speight.
Yeah, and they're talking about the episode. Misha's talking about coming back in like episode or season 6 or 7, I think, and he specifically brings up the moment where, oh yeah, I come back when Dean has been like hoarding my trench coat, like, and very carefully like pressing it and keeping it nicely folded, and he gives it back to me. And Misha is very obviously saying like this is a moment of like touching love, and right, like,
yeah, of course.
And then the other two guys are like kind of backing away of like, oh, I don't know if we want to talk about that. Like, everything gets heavy when you bring up the Destiel of it all, and I just and like all I saw was like
fucking cowards, man.
I'm
I'm sorry. I'm gonna say
no.
Cowards.
And I absolutely, like, I saw like just a clip of the transcript, so like it's difficult to read context in text, and like I'll give but at the same time, it just seems like that's the fucking attitude of that entire show, and it just really pisses me off sometimes. Like,
that's the thing, yeah.
And
it's just that now we've moved away from like, oh no, it doesn't exist, to like, oh, I don't know if we want to talk about that. Like,
yeah, we can't talk about it because
off.
it makes people upset or whatever. And I'm like, oh,
because it alienates a part of our audience. Exactly. Yeah. Like, I don't know, man. Yeah, fuck off. Yeah.
And it just validated me.
I have nothing good to say about that.
It just validated me for not listening to that podcast. So, like, I just, like, you would think
everything that I know about this podcast has been, like, against my will.
Yeah. Very much so. Yeah. Like, I listened to the first episode, and they're charming guys. Like, and
they are.
And I think
people.
I think the show in a way like deserves that kind of treatment, right? Like, I think that's I mean, it's a huge, as somebody who's finished a Supernatural podcast, like, it's a huge thing that they're doing. Like, they're going to spend years doing that, and that's going to be really difficult. I would not be surprised if they never finish, right? Like, I just it's a lot of work, and especially as the years go on, and like interest in the show is going to continue to decrease, but at the same time, like, just having two guys in there that just don't have the open-mindedness of it all is really frustrating. And I don't
think it's a question of open-mindedness. I think it's a question of cojones at this point.
Also that too.
It's mostly that, because they're seeing it, right? Like, they've talked about it. Again, I've learned this against my will, but they just now refuse to talk about it for fear of alienating their patrons, right? So I'm like, okay, well then I have no interest in this show at all, right? Like, if you're not willing to stand up and actually talk about like an openly queer relationship in this show, then like, what the fuck are we doing? I don't. Why did you get me started on this? I don't know.
I'm so sorry. I don't even know what triggered me even talking about this. It was Katie's friend on Blue Sky that did it. So we're barely even mutuals. I'm sorry. I don't even know. Barely know this person. So just randomly talking shit. Let's get through our 8 pages of Hannibal notes.
Yes, let's go and do that. That'll be fun.
We're ready to talk about Mason Verger, finally.
We're ready to talk about two men who love each other.
Finally.
Because really, that's what this episode is about. Jerry's like, I disagree. But
I don't want to get into it because I'm scared of alienating.
Okay, let's go.
And the conclusion that I've drawn is that you are